Welcome to No Ordinary People. I'm Jade, and I'm on a mission to give positivity a voice by sharing stories of everyday people doing extraordinary things. They're a reminder of the power we all have to make the world a better place. I'd like to start by acknowledging the Gamaragal people of the Eora Nation as the traditional custodians of this land we're recording on today. I honour their continuing connection to land, waters and culture and pay my respects to elders past and present. I acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded and that this always was and always will be Aboriginal land. I extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples joining us today. Today's guest is Dominic Brook, the founder of MMAD, Musicians Making a Difference. From working in juvenile justice to building a national charity that uses music and mentoring to transform young lives, Dom has seen firsthand what love, belonging and purpose can do for kids facing disadvantage. And now he's pioneering Futures Radio, an innovative station inside youth justice centres that's rewriting the narrative for young people behind bars. Let's get into it, Dom. Welcome to the show.
I'm so excited to be on this show.
Dom, you've got one of those life stories that feels like a movie. Before we dive into MMAD, I want you to take me back. What was young Dom like? What were those formative years like for you?
Well, hello, everybody. Thanks for joining. Formative years were sporadic, moved around probably 13 or 14 different places to the age of 16, lived in a few different countries, lived with aunties, mums, another auntie, lived in an ashram, lived on the street a little bit in India. There's bits of everything. Lived in Northern Beaches, Double Bay. So I went from like these glamorous areas to these crazy areas to these. Yeah, so it was sporadic with probably hard to find that sense of home.
And what were you missing that, you know, in hindsight, what were you missing? What were you looking for?
It was probably, to be honest, you know, a mentor or someone who believed in me because I didn't have a father figure. I was just with my mum, single mum. So I was looking for, as a kid, you don't really know what you're looking for. But if I look in hindsight, I think growing up in year 3, 4 in Goa, India with such freedom and working with like a lot of poverty and at risk, I didn't know at the time. It was just my worldview, like hanging out with these kids on the street. And I think it shaped me in a big way, especially going to the ashram and seeing different cultures. So in the midst of the storm and the chaotic mess of it all, in some ways, there was lots of lessons, I think, that I subconsciously learnt.
Yeah.
Which I'm really thankful for now.
I know during that period, because we've talked about it, there was someone in your life who really believed in you. And I know that had a big impact on your life and the sort of trajectory that you followed. Can you tell me a little bit about that person and what they did?
Great. So I was, at this point, I'd moved to many places and then I moved to the Blue Mountains. I was in Katoomba for a bit and in one of these big housing commission units, which was a little bit scary, come to think of it in hindsight, what went on there. But yeah, I moved to Blaxland and to another Lower Blue Mountains, and there was a lot going on with my stepdad or mum's boyfriend. I don't need to go into detail, but it didn't feel like a safe environment. So it was, and I was probably getting into trouble in a few places because I lacked probably direction. And it was a next door neighbour that kept talking to me. I thought she was a bit crazy. You know, I was going off doing my thing at school parties or whatever I was up to, naughty things I was up to. And she just kept like, you know, seeing me, saying hi and just, I don't know, she was just really positive but crazy energy. And there was one day actually where I wrote my first rap song with only rappers back then. It was all kind of rock in the 90s. And I thought, gosh, it'd be good to learn a guitar or an instrument and be able to write my own songs. And it was weird that afternoon, that next door neighbour, I went over when I got a bit bored and she was throwing out a guitar. And she was like, I've been hoping and wishing that I could give this to someone who would use it. And I said, that's so weird. I was just thinking about it. So, you know, it was that. But then from there, when I started to spark and find that maybe I could do something with my life and starting to find some purpose, which she really opened in my life, believed in me, gave me that guitar, paid for me to go to one of my first camps, a songwriting camp. And she was a big spiritual, crazy energy. We've all probably met someone like that. But it was kind of like someone that you meet that seems to know the real you before you do, in a way, or like saw behind the mask. And she brought that side of me out in some crazy way just by the way she spoke, the way she believed in me, the way she painted the future of what it could be, especially going through a crisis moment at home. I remember one story where she was like, Mum was like off the planet. She wasn't doing her music. She wanted to. And that I think we had to call the cops on the stepdad for some violent stuff. And she goes, I promise you one day you'll stand on this stage with your mum and you're going to sing and I'll be there.
Yeah, wow.
It was the most it was this beautiful piece of hope in the midst of the darkness that she had. Like, I think you were saying it today when you're going through stuff that you got to stand with that hope and push back. And it was those kind of moments in hardship that was like, okay, but not only did it help and hope, but some of that stuff all happened. So probably 10 years after, I was on the stage releasing Mum's album and we're on the stage together and she was there.
Yeah, wow. I mean, there's so much stuff we don't know and we can't understand, right?
Yeah.
But I think what I love about that is it's that perfect example of one person, not a relative, not a school teacher, not a soccer coach, just a person seeing potential in a young person and giving you the time and giving you, an adult kind of that's backing you and believing in you. And I see that thread into what MAD does today. So
Absolutely.
I just love that. When people say to me, one person can't make a difference, absolutely they can. And this is a great example.
Like a neighbour, a friend, a kid, that your friend,
100%.
like it's just believing more for somebody.
Yeah.
There's a little bit more to that, but it's really just, having that sense of purpose. And, I do see the ripple effect actually, just as we're talking. It was like she almost founded MAD in a way, I mean, I know I came up with the idea and did the things and
she
with
sowed
Emma,
the seeds.
But she sowed the seed. And now that I look at all the young people that have come through MAD and the incredible things they're doing, I see that ripple effect happening.
Amazing.
And this generational change, which is pretty crazy. Thanks for that aha moment.
No problem. So you started working in juvie early career and then went into running hip-hop camps for kids. And this was all self-funded. This was before MAD. What drove you to do that?
So I went to that songwriting camp and I came back from that camp just knowing two things. I wanted to do something with music and I wanted to create change in a positive way through music. That's all I knew. I didn't know how. But because I started performing in that, maybe to put on gigs, so I had a performance at my own gig. We put on performances and different things. But it was also that songwriting camp was one of those other moments. I'm not sure if anyone's been to a conference or a trip or to something where you came back different and there was something just special about the experience that shifted and changed you and you're never the same. That camp kind of did that for me. I can't explain how. It just did. And I felt like, and I think I had the thought, what if we could do that for more at-risk young people where I was, but through hip-hop culture. So it was called 351, 3 days, 5 elements, which is the 4 elements of hip-hop, DJing, MCing, breaking, graph. But the 5th element was like knowledge and self. And then the one shot was, what is your one shot at life to do something great? What do you really dream of? Because deep down in all of us, we have this special gift and special purpose that a lot of people never find or gets buried due to trauma or stuff that happened. But if you find that, we're all gifted to do something great. Yeah. And I think that's changed a lot of kids' lives over 20 years, that 351 camp. I'm working with a kid that I worked with 20 years ago and he just keeps talking about that moment where he shifted in the same way I did with the camp that I went to. So I think, now my life's just set on creating change creatively through music, creativity and mentoring. And then those kids are going on to find their own little niche, which looks a little bit different with all of them with what they're doing.
And at what point did you realise it wasn't just a passion project? And, I want to talk about that founding moment for MAD. Because as you said, you knew you wanted to do something with music. You knew it had to be purposeful, but no business degree, no qualifications, nothing that makes you go, yeah, cool. Yeah. So what was that founding moment like? What were those early years like for you, that steep learning curve as you were kind of following this path?
In terms of the business model?
Yeah.
So the first camp, we got donated the hall. Mm-hmm. We had no funding, no nothing. It was just pure passion and like, what if we did this? Let's just give it a shot. You know, if it went through today's compliance checks and governance and risk assessments, I don't think there was one. It was pure passion and very just grassroots. You know, I was only like 22 or 23, just going, what if we did this? And so it was a steep learning curve. It took us, I was working in juvenile justice and a few other places while I was building what we call MMAD today. And it was good 8 to 10 years before that interaction with Unlimited, which was called Mayday back in the day.
Yeah.
With Kerry McCabe, where we were able to put one person on 1 day a week and actually rent an office. And that was around 2006.
Yeah, wow.
So in between there, I was working at youth centres for council, juvenile justice, a few other little things, you know, doing workshops and that as well. But yeah, Unlimited had a big part over 20 years in terms of bringing great brands and structure, and different partners over the years, you know who you are, have all added something to the madness and what we are today. Like I don't want to mention anyone, but we're able to purchase our own place, our forever home, which we're at risk of, and then we're able to put on another employee to do workshops and tours, and then different brands gave us a car, and we still got that after 15 years, a van that we do regional tours with, and then, you know, all the companies that are listening or involved with ARN or MAD, sorry, Unlimited or MAD, we're at ARN now, by the way, MAD props. Just know your legacy in MAD. You really have built those foundations that we're trying to sustain and secure so that we can leave a lasting legacy for the next 100 years, and that impact will continue to grow.
So what is it about music that reaches young people who have shut down to everything else? So as a vehicle for change, why is music so important?
Yeah. Okay, so music is so important, I think, because one, everybody connects with it. You see kids everywhere, no matter where they are, with headphones in their ears or just wanting to listen to music because it speaks to their inner soul or inner self and inner trauma like nobody else can quite reach, because I think the music is connecting because they're singing or rapping about similar experiences and that they feel connected to community. Music is universal. Music is just, I mean, a life without music would be pointless, really. So it's really the language of the soul and our emotions and connects to us on such a unique level. I mean, all the research that's coming about music therapy and learning an instrument and how it builds more neural pathways than any other thing that you could do. And just, it's a special, unexplainable thing that moves the world in different ways.
So when a young person comes into MAD, right? So they're either referred through a service or through a school or through a person, or they just come through word of mouth, one of their friends. Like when a young person comes in to your world, what happens for them? What's their first interaction? You know, and because I know not every person who comes in even has musical ability or aspiration. So I think we want to dispel that myth, right? It's it's that sense of belonging and acceptance and feeling safe and having a place that's for them where they can express themselves without judgment. So that's what I see when I come in. But I'm really interested in, you know, for that young person coming through the door for the first time, what do you hope they get out of it? What are you creating for them?
Well, we're creating a mad world. And that mad world, it is hard to explain, but it's a world that's safe. Think of the best family, you might have had it. They've got your back. You got a beautiful space. If you need something to break through with life, that they want the best for you. They're not going to, rip you off, and they're going to believe in the best for you. They're going to open up doors for the best for you. You're going to feel safe. You got the resources to do the things that, I never knew I could even do that. So it's walking into this world of a place where, well, what if dreams were possible? What if you could overcome anything? What if there was a world without judgment and positive energy? What is a world where you could be empowered and learn and become the best you could be? And that is the mad world.
And that's probably for a lot of these kids and young people, it may be the first time anyone's ever said that they're worth something. You know, they've probably been turned away from school or groups or...
Absolutely. I remember one kid said, nobody's asked me what my dream is.
Yeah. Wow.
It's like he was just lost in that question. I was like, what?
Yeah.
And it's kind of that lack of positive input. And I think what's powerful about creativity in music is we have a vehicle to be able to, get into the ears of young people. And also, music's not just about listening, it's about creating.
Yeah.
So suddenly our young guys that have been through hell and back are releasing the trauma through writing. And once they write it out, there's scientific evidence about the actual trauma from inside starts to drop off because they've told the world. And it's in a creative thing that it's no longer in them, it's in the song.
Yeah. It's moved out of their physical body.
And then that song ripples to affect someone else that still has that in them.
Yeah.
And, our Rise Up crew, which I know you want to talk about programs later, but, one of them's written this great song on mental health that he doesn't know it yet, but we're about to tell him this week that Universal are going to release, and it's called I'm Gonna Be Okay.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the programs. So they've walked in, there's obviously the assessment of where that child is at. What does this child need? Because every child's different, right? Every young person is different. But then you've got these programs that you talk them through. And I think this is really interesting because it's a very, we talk about, MAD is not a short-term fix. It's not you come in for 4 weeks, tick a box and off you go. You with that young person for as long as necessary. And often, I see them, they're still adults, got children of their own.
We're trying to get rid of them. Yeah. They're like 31, I'm still at home. It's like, okay, become volunteer.
Yeah, exactly. So they go on to become the change themselves. But I think I'm really interested in just step me through those programs that a young person might go through in MAD.
We've got a lot of programs that fit a lot of things. So I might just step you through the theory of change probably.
Yeah, great.
Which would be that creating that comfort and safety and that ability to not feel judged. And like a kid, you've got that ability to just, sing naked or sing whatever. Like you don't care, you don't know. So it's when young people grow up and they start singing and then someone says, you're crap, and they lock down and then they anxiety because they're going to get judged.
Yeah.
So we set, I think, the soil, the atmosphere, the tone.
Yeah.
And then I think through different programs, we plant the seed of who they can become, what they can do, and they're hearing stories of overcoming and resilience. And we plant the seed of skills, some of the skills they'll learn in rapping, recording. And those programs are programs like, Sound Foundations, where they learn the basics of sound and also how to have a sound foundation in your mental health, in your mind, in your life. And then Break Free, which is 8 Mile meets AA, where you come in weekly, set a weekly goal to kind of have this atomic habits effect on little steps to changing your life. And then one of the big probably watering program as we water that seed is the Catch a Falling Star program, which has been an incredible program, which is a 6 to 12 month intensive mentorship around the philosophy of you can't change the world unless you change yourself. And so that's all about changing self and getting self on really solid ground. And then followed by a leadership development program with our partner where they rise up and learn about how to lead, how to run programs, how to create events, how to network, how to have resilience, how to be a great leader, how to serve. So and then they go on to, blow up on social media or, create their own business or become artists and tour with Lewis Capaldi or win Australia's Got Talent or whatever they end up to doing. Not all of them, I'd only say like 50% are serious about becoming a musician, probably even less. So we got one young guy that's just blowing up on TikTok, sharing his story about being a great dad. And we've journeyed with him for like 10 years through ups and downs and supported him in like getting the gear so he can do the social posts, and he's getting like millions of views per post, and people are really resonating with his mentoring around being a great dad.
What I love about, and I know this young man you're talking about, but what I love about that is he is breaking those trauma bonds for, he's bringing his boy up the way he would have wanted to be. I mean,
isn't it amazing? I think he spoke about that on his last post about I'm breaking this generational.
Absolutely. And that's what it's about, right?
I think that's what MAD teaches. We
Your past
we talk to them about living by design and not default. So defaults are, I've always been like this. Yeah. My dad's like this. Well, I'm just
with no control. Yeah.
And we basically, through creative therapy and years of experience, break that thought pattern And we actually almost do a whole neuro reprogramming of their brain through our programs.
Well, it's kind of like
sounds intense, but that's pretty much what we do. But they've got freedom of thought, but we have the opportunity to question, well, why do you think that? Who could you be? How could you reframe that?
Yeah, and turning down that negative voice in their head that tells them they can't, they're not worthy.
Exactly.
Limiting
beliefs.
Yeah.
All that. That's the fun bit, actually. I love that.
Yeah.
So we're very big on, I think, self-development as well as music. I think we were talking before that, music is so engaging and people love to dance and it's experiential. And then the mentoring is like so empowering.
Yeah.
But each of them on their own doesn't have the same powers together. And I think that's part of the magic of MMAD.
But I think it's also, it's the self-selection that I love. So, whilst they may be referred, like there's no one holding the kids there. They choose to show up every week or every day or whatever it is. They choose to be at MMAD HQ.
You know the funny story?
Yeah, go on, tell me.
When kids get in trouble at school or something happens, a lot of the times the parent bans them from going to MMAD.
Yeah, right.
Because they love it so much. They love it and they know that's the only thing that they love.
Yeah.
But it's the worst thing a parent could do.
Oh, 100%.
Because MMAD is teaching them actually to better their behaviour and break that cycle.
Yeah. So they're depriving them of
the opportunity to change.
Yeah, interesting.
And so interesting
take the screens
parenting
off
tips.
them. Take the screens off them.
Yeah, exactly.
Not the
Something
development.
else, but don't take good opportunities away.
Is there a particular story, and look, we never use names on this show, but is there a particular young person, we've spoken about one, but is there a particular young person or a story that sits with you or has really kind of made you sit back and go, oh, like sometimes you forget the impact of what MMAD can have on a particular young person? Is there any story you'd feel comfortable sharing?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where to start, but I've got one in mind that I'll start, but... Yeah, it's quite an amazing place. Like even when I go, I'm not in programs so much because I am developing other programs nationally, but, going back into the office and just hearing kids say, MMAD saved my life. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
It's like, how? Like it's just, I think there's just something around that real family, the authentic workers. It's not a job for us. Like it's a mission that every young person has someone who believes in them and the opportunity to live their potential. I mean, that's an essential, I think, right of every young person in Australia that many don't get. And so it's really beautiful to see. One story. Okay, young guy, met him. He was a bit of a thug kid. Police knew him by name. I had all the get up. I think we first met him when he was 13 and we kept trying to reach him because we just, we were driving the car. It's like, hey, bro, not using his name, but like, hey, bro, we got a prize. And I think he told us the other day, I even forgot about it, but he won a Game Boy with his mate. And this is way back in the day, obviously, of a Game Boys. I think we're talking it was early 2000s. But he wasn't actually into music. He was in a refuge. He went refuge to refuge and he got on the STAR program and just felt this absolute sense of family. And we did this most incredible program that we've stopped due to funding, but we hired a house on the lakefront with a jet ski and a wharf and a Christmas tree. And for those that have never experienced a Christmas, we had family Christmas. They brought presents for free. They didn't have to buy anything. We had this little gift shop. They wrapped. For some of them, it's the first time they'd ever set up a tree in their home. And we'd have dinners together. And we just, I would sing and do some music and all that stuff. But that sense of family healed a lot of kids that had been broken and wanted to go back. One of the kids from that camp actually went back to her refuge and wanted to ripple effect and do that for all the kids in the refuge. And make it special. And she hated Christmas. Yeah. She hated carols until that thing. So it was that healing of reframing. But that was such a good program. But he came to that. That was a real change for him. But the police actually, he called up in tears one day saying the police harassed me on the street for no reason. He came back from a STAR program, from one of our programs, and he was telling the police, I'm mad now. I've changed. And, he was a passionate young street kid. He talked really street, but he was so passionate about MMAD and the change it made in his life. Anyway, we went down to the police station and we stood up for him, basically said, why'd you harass him? He's doing good. And he's like, well, look, he's had 356 incidents with the police. We know him by name. We check in on him. And it was like, oh, he's devastated now. He's trying to change his ways and you keep putting him in a box and, back off. Since that day, that we found out about that. He's had 0 incidents. He's built his own landscaping business. He's so good with finances now. He wants to teach other kids at MAD financial wealth and health. He came up and did an episode on futures and gave advice about property development, and he wants to bring on a kid in his different trades, and help them. But yeah, that was a really interesting one. But just that sense of not even being into music and those incidents with police and seeing him do so well was really, one of those great ones.
And I think you touch on something there that I love, and it is that the personal rebranding, right? So the sense of pride that a kid feels to say, I'm MAD now, I'm part of this group, and that stands for something. I think what I love, and I've been lucky enough to attend, some of the block parties where all the different kids will get up on stage and sing or rap or whatever they might do. And I think the thing that stands out for me is just the breadth and depth and diversity of young people, musical taste, talents, some
rock, classical, comedy.
Like if you were in a school environment or somewhere else, the kid that's into, rap would be probably rolling their eyes at the kid who's playing the classical or, but in this environment, they were all cheering each other on, like the sense of camaraderie and the sense of we've got you. And some of them were struggling on stage, and yet everyone was like, no, you've got this, you've got this. So it's like this, what you've set up, these kids buy into that behavior themselves, and then that will ripple out into their lives. And I think that is, rather than labeling kids, criminalizing kids, targeting them because they've done something in their past. Yeah. What I love is that rewriting of the script. Yeah. Like, how did you know how to do that? Like, I'm just fascinated. Just years of experience?
That's a big question. I think I knew quite early. I think, I don't know how, I think it was just, again, like, that next door neighbor, that belief. And then, I don't know, growing up in that ashram, I think it was one of those magic moments like you see in a movie where they just get that gift, but it developed. And I think we've all got that in different ways. And I think, I don't know. That's a really hard question. I'm not going to answer it too much. I'm still processing that. I don't want to process on this show today.
No, fair enough. So probably it's gut and intuition, a lot of it, right?
Yeah,
and then over time, you've got the proof points in the data of the results.
You know what? This is funny. I just remembered last year I was in Alice Springs hanging out with all the Indigenous kids and like rapping with them, and everyone was in shock. And then after at the dinner time, it's like somebody asked that same question. I said, how did you be able to read people and actually connect like that and change them so quick? And anyway, so I don't know. I don't want to process.
Magic, in the words of Freddie Mercury.
I didn't do any course.
No.
I just say, again, everyone's got a gift. Some people can kind of, read each other's minds or do something or meditate or see the future. My gift's just I think I see the future and I see the true person behind the mask, kind of like my neighbour. It comes back to that neighbour
I love that.
Which saw the true me behind the mask.
Yeah, she gave me that gift.
She gave me that gift. Yeah. Possibly that's it. There we got it.
There we go. Yay.
High
Boom.
five. So it was transferred. And I think, when you think about that at MAD, we need to create a MAD school so we can pass these gifts on everywhere.
100%.
But I think some of the kids at MAD go on with great gifts as well, and they've caught something in there. I mean, I think it was when ARN was at the office. You were with us, but there was just a moment where we sat there and just like nobody wanted to leave. There was just like something beautiful in the room. Oh,
the minute you walk into that space, there's something special there. It's it's hard to put a finger on it. But I'm a big believer. If you go rent an apartment or whatever, you walk in, you know. Yeah. You know. I don't know how we know. I don't think anyone knows how we know, but you do. Your body tells you. Your body's like, nah, this is not for me. Oh, yeah, that is.
Yeah.
Like, you feel safe. That's what MAD has.
Yeah.
So let's just put it down to woo-woo.
The universe, basically.
The universe. But now look, so, obviously you've been doing this for a long time. So MAD has started like that. But the reality is, you're very data-driven, outcome-driven.
Absolutely.
Like the goal for you, and I want to touch on futures in a minute, but I do want to set this up. The goal for you is to stop kids from ending up either ill, out of school, in juvenile justice centres. Your goal is to change their life before they get there. Yes. But I think what's really...
But I think what MAD focuses on, and a lot of people, this is probably a was a good lesson for me, but I think I've kind of known this, is people focus on like, you don't want to be suspended from school. You can't do that. Like, I don't want you to be a criminal. And then you're actually almost reaffirming that.
Yeah.
And so at MAD, we don't even look at that. And even when you say, we don't want people to be unemployed or whatever, we actually just look to the future and go, we want you to be employed. We want you to have a great mental health. This is how we get there. And I feel like
the positive framing.
The positive framing, focusing on the solution as parents, even like us doing this, I mean, personally, focusing on what you want them to be rather than what you don't want them to be.
Yeah.
Because they have two different
effects. It's a whole red
effects.
car scenario, right?
Yeah, so, exactly.
But the result is that all of those things are true. So the result is that you are seeing kids not enter into a system that then turns them into criminals. You are seeing kids develop the skills to have really good mastery of themselves and go on to be successful, but you're doing it by positive framing.
Yeah.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah.
For those kids that, or those young people, I should say, that do find themselves within a juvenile justice system. So that's your first interaction with them through Futures. So I want to talk about Futures because Futures Radio is new, and I'll give you the space to explain what Futures Radio is because this is a new development for you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, you talked a little bit about me working in juvenile justice while I was, setting up MAD and figuring out what that looked like, and so, I just realized, again, going back to that conversation we just had, that in the juvie, there was a lot more negative talk about more crime or what crime are you going to do next. And one kid actually said to me, it's university to become a better criminal. So we're actually sending them back out worse than they went in because we've taught them more tricks, where to get the guns or where to do a hit or who to connect with if you want to do this. And then we wonder why, the recidivism rate's 85% or whatever it is. And I was like, this doesn't make sense. And I saw that, at that time they were watching a lot of crime shows and that, which is great for us, entertaining, but for them it's their real world and they're getting more ideas. And I was like, how do we flip the script and create that kind of like mad world? How do we put something into a room that's one of the most isolated places on the planet, a little, 4x4 prison cell with a TV and
which
a toilet.
Which is causing trauma. And
it's causing this negative feedback loop of, I'm bad, I'm a criminal, I'm thing, mum hates me, this happened, I'm thing, I'm a criminal, and swap it out with actually people who'd been there, lived experience, and this beautiful positive feedback loop of the future. And we've piloted last year, which is incredible. We've been running it on and off for 10 to 20 years, but we finally got the support to do a 24-hour version, and the results have been incredible.
So what sort of things are you seeing?
One kid on the unit there's a lot of separation with postcode war. So one kid on the unit that was the head of that gang and everyone knew him as the head of that postcode. And there was, incidents and fights, and he joined Futures and the crew. And he got trained up over 3 to 6 months and just opened up his world to his gift and how good he was. And he interviewed the minister, Deborah Wallace, head of Raptor Squad. He interviewed Danny Abdallah about forgiveness. And suddenly, after 3 to 6 months, he was a changed kid in the sense he was more confident. Nobody remembered him as the head of the gang anymore. They remembered him as the head of Futures.
Identity.
Yeah, of like the radio celebrity host doing that. He had new dreams. He just wanted to work for Futures and do radio and content, and he wants to be a plumber and that. And he started talking to us about, the other boys are talking about the next crime they're going to do, and started being part of the Futures gang, creating the change, became the musician making a difference. So, look, it's early days. It's early days, but early research is showing us the kids are listening, 80% are listening to about 14 hours a week. Which is 14 times more. We were hoping for 1 hour a week of their favourite show that helped inspire them. And this isn't any ordinary radio.
The kids are, the young people, they're creating a lot of the content themselves.
They're creating one show a week.
Okay.
But So they're learning the skills
with
and radio.
guidance. So,
with guidance.
So you're teaching them. Yeah.
But they're becoming independent where they're actually, without our staff on, they're recording shows, but we're editing it. So they're being empowered to do it. But they're listening to like morning meditations, morning TEDx talks, morning training on like confidence and sales skills, putting together projects. It's like a TEDx / school / a radio station. Like we've got these Cobham requests where they request their songs. There's competitions to create change. We're just shifting. We're creating great opportunities. Yeah. So that we're
and most
breaking the cycle of crime.
You're, hopefully they'll come out of there a different person, regardless of for what they, were put in for. And I know a lot of, especially, young offenders, it's not these heinous crimes that the media would portray. It's often it's like it's kind of theft, or they're getting themselves into the cars with older kids and they're being led. So you're able to take that life and show them a different way so that when they come out, they're probably not going to hang out with the same kids that they were before. Their horizons are shifted. So the goal is very much,
Well, hopefully we can train some of them on the external radio to host the shows. And one day I'm hoping one of them becomes a Brekkie show announcer after they're trained up, because the personalities in here are crazy. They're great. People love them. So we're creating futures, and so love the name of the radio. But it's really early days. It's really interesting evidence that's coming back. Like we're noticing some of the boys that are getting transferred into other units are requesting. They're like feeling lost without futures. They want it to come in. So we're building out, we're knocking on ministers' doors. We're doing whatever we can to get this up and running, because the return on investment for government is like 22x, like the impact.
Yeah. How much we're spending on locking kids up, when we shouldn't be.
And it's really a no-brainer to be able to put a mentor, a friend, a life coach, and a careers counsellor in their room 24 hours a day, and through MMAD that are experts over the last 25 years, the research of how many kids we've turned around and the wellbeing index from like 40% from most kids up to the normal 73% of Australians. And so, it's exciting.
And, that's a really interesting. I saw a post the other day. I'm not going to remember the stats, but it certainly struck me. It's like the amount that we're spending on locking kids up, from the age of 10 in New South Wales. You look at how much money we as taxpayers are paying to do that, and you could, like, if we fully funded programs like MMAD, we'd never have these kids in these environments in the first place, right? So if that funding that we're spending on locking kids up went into places like MMAD and Backtrack and Down the Track and Lead a Life and all of the other amazing organisations on the ground changing kids' lives, I just look at it from a numbers perspective and go, surely the Australian public goes, hang on, that makes a lot more sense. You could pay for a child psychologist full time. You could pay for a, fitness coach, mental health, everything. You kind of look at all of that, the life skills, and have a whole squad of people inside proven models like MMAD, diverting these kids before they even get to that point because of the trauma. So I love that you've got kind of, everything you're doing is to divert these kids and show them a better way. But then what you've developed is something for the kids that you haven't reached, that are already in there. How do we make sure they don't go back in there again? Right? Because it's that, we're big believers in early intervention. But then it's also, okay, for those that have slipped through the cracks for whatever reason, how do we make sure that they don't go back there? So that hopefully, eventually,
you know what? If they don't leave the prison cell feeling like they have a purpose and a skill and visualizing their future in a positive way, they're basically going back. They're going back to an environment that their brothers are in crime or their family or they're in an environment they have to survive to steal or whatever because low socioeconomic areas. So what we need to do is use that as a street uni to train them up while they're inside the best we can to create more jobs, create safer communities. And people that say, oh, well, they shouldn't have a program like this or anything, to me, it's like almost a flat earther because, sorry, flat earthers, but it just makes total sense.
We're not talking about making it soft for them.
Yeah,
We're talking about turning
you can make
them
the cell and make the prison centre as hard as you want, but if we don't feed them input or give them the opportunity to change, you or your neighbour or your community are the ones that are going to affect in the future. So this is essential to the safety of the community because whatever you think, you become. And Futures is changing the thinking of the system and the thinking of young people in the system and will reduce recidivism rates if implemented across Australia.
And so what's your goal for Futures? What would you, if it could roll out the way you want it to, what's your goal?
I think it needs to be in every juvenile justice centre in Australia. Then we need to build the community and village and network of the best community organisations that can create entertaining content that connect with those kids that are going through those crises, so that they want to connect. From a media marketing point of view, they want to connect with those community organisations or opportunities more than they want to go back to a lifestyle of crime.
Yeah. So it's got, I mean, if you look at it as, if it's the vehicle, you could see futures sitting within the local community hall with, local leaders driving content that goes in. Or, it could be something for mass adoption, right? If we see it's working.
We're building the stage, but there's a whole village and lots of different organisations that will... Yeah. Sorry, we're building the festival. The stages will be run by all different organisations. Yeah. So we're open to content from anyone that has part of the solution and bettering young people's lives.
Yeah, yeah. For people listening, what's the best way to get involved and support MAD and your work?
Let's have a chat. Let's have a chat and brainstorm. I really connect well with people and their ideas and their needs, and how does that fit together. So the best way, go to MAD Australia, MMAD Australia on Instagram, message us.
I'm going to jump in there. It's mmad.org.au.
That's the website.
Right, okay.
So I was talking about the Instagram or socials, MAD Australia or mad.org.au, Just give us a call. Let's have a chat.
Yeah,
get on the website, But I find I love connecting with people now where there's great win-wins, where it works for them. I don't want to ask for anything for MAD and give back. It's like, how do you give back, but you also improve something in your team or your bottom line or what you're trying to build in your company or your life? So let's just have a chat.
I love that. Well, if you've been listening and you want to learn more, so head to mad.org.au. I will put all of the links to all the socials and all the things in the notes. But I just want to say a sincere thank you to you, Dom, and a thank you to ARN for hosting us today. It's been a pleasure, and we out.
Thank you.
Need more light in your feed? Follow and share. Be part of the movement to bring the balance back.